Hey everybody, I am hoping that my mic is working. Please let me know if you can guys can hear me at all. I am getting ready to do a little live stream here to update people about the distance learning situation that we have here in Philadelphia. If you're not familiar with our situation, I'd like to say hi and welcome. My name is Dana. I am the mother of three. Pardon. Currently living in Philadelphia. My three children are still home and have been home for distance learning since the very beginning of the school year. Well, I mean, really since March of last year, since everything began. We were really hoping that sometime after the election that the political climate would calm down, and with that, some of the chatter and the political persuasions that were really pushing for schools not to be reopened. I don't want to go too much into the validity of having the school open. I am only here to talk about some of the difficulties that we have had with distance learning and that I am sure that other families have had as well. I am quite proud of my daughter who has asked for help with an email that her and well, I was going to say her and her friends, but really her and her friends, and now children from other grades and other classrooms would like to have some input on the letter and would like to. Most kids are going to sign their name. Some kids do want to do it anonymously. I guess I understand either way, right? Because they certainly are afraid of having a target on their back, but for me, and what I've always taught my children is that, like, the bigger the target, the more people can see you, then the better. Many people are afraid to speak up, especially to authority figures or to institutions that we consider places of authority, like higher education, like the education system, like law enforcement, like doctors when we're in a medical setting, or when we have been programmed with fear-based information from Operation Mockingbird, and we turn to doctors to save us from that. Those are just some examples of times when even adults have a difficult time speaking up to authority. So really, I'm proud of my daughter. I'm proud of all these kids that are willing to take the time to put this email together and sign their name to it. I think it's really great. So, they're going to deal with things on their end, the difficulties that they're having with the increase in live classes. What I would like to say is that for my second grade daughter, there really only is one day a week when she has what I would consider an excessive amount of live classes. And by that, I mean she is on school from 8 to about 2:15. Now, there are breaks built in, 5 to 10 minute breaks throughout, movement breaks, bathroom breaks, snack breaks. There's obviously a lunch built in. But what I mean by being on from 8 to 2 is that there are no standalone classes anymore. There's no just freestanding assignments. She has to be on, the camera. The camera has to be on. Things have to be set up from 8 to 2. So it's really only the one day that's problematic at this point. For my other two children, however, that are in I almost lost it, that are in 4th and 5th grade right now. Those kids are having a difficult time because they are in live classes from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. with those breaks and obviously with the lunch every single day of the week that they have classes, which right now is Monday through Thursday. Friday morning, they have, I consider it nonsense. The kids have to show up, but it's socio-emotional development where the class does projects and things together. Okay, great. But these other 4 days a week, they are online for 5 hours a day. So, it's really interesting to me. We're going to go through some of these issues, and I did just have to jot some things down so that I wouldn't forget all of the important topics I wanted to cover, certainly before we got to the 5-minute mark. So I apologize in advance. The one thing I think I've maybe not said enough is how happy I am with my kids' school up until this point. I thought they gave a little bit too much homework, but really, if that was all bad I had to say, then that's all it was. I think that the fact that they are in charter school speaks to what happens when you merge kind of the best aspects of public education with the best aspects of privatization, in that the school is able to operate under the umbrella of the Greater Philadelphia School District, and so still has access to Pearson materials and the discounts that come along with buying things in bulk, but they don't have to deal with the unions, which is really what has driven public education into the ground. But there have been a number of distance learning challenges that teachers and schools are just unwilling to really give any credence to, and it's getting to the point where I think parents are starting to feel pushed around and taken advantage of. There are more parents than I think school administrators are willing to recognize that are unhappy with current events. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the financial burden that this presents to families to have children home full time. I guess we were asked in the sense that there was a Google form survey sent home. But I don't think we really ever got the results. We were just told what the results were when they were announcing what their plan was. I remain unimpressed. For me to have to stay home full time, it's not as if I can work from home either, because the constant momming every 5 minutes is really burdensome. It's really tough to even sit down for a moment to get this video out has taken until 2:00 in the afternoon today. It just is what it is. And I mean, that's life with kids, but there has been an expectation, a tacit agreement between teachers, taxpayers, and the parents-student dyad there. Certain parts of that pyramid are letting the other parts of the pyramid down. Okay? In addition to the fact that they're not doing their job, I can't do my own job anymore. I have to be home. I have to schedule things at night. And at the same time, I'm still doing this at the behest of the school and under their direct supervision, and it's their schedule and it's their curriculum. Now, thankfully, my husband is around and is supportive, and despite our difficulties with our home right now, we do have somewhere to live. My father is here, and he's great, and he's helpful too. But this is Philadelphia. We have some of the highest child poverty rates in the entire nation, and we just have a lot of single moms here. No one has stopped to ask the single moms how they're handling things. And it's probably because the single moms are just too busy. Wow, the kids must be out of school early because I hear them screaming like wild animals. I'm sure that interruption is forthcoming. Constant distractions. There you go. When kids are in a dedicated learning space, in a building, in a place that they've come to associate with learning, it's vastly different than, say, being displaced from your home, living at your father's, and trying to crowd everybody to the most amount of flat surface we currently have available. And yet some of these recommendations from schools for a particular space, that the child's at a desk, the child has a dedicated space. I even find the assumption that children should be wearing headphones to be burdensome, because no, they shouldn't. I should be able to hear what the teacher's saying, and I want to be able to hear the interaction. A dedicated learning space is not possible for most people. They need to just take that completely out of their handbook. I mean, I never heard a more privileged expression in my life. And you would think the teachers that come up through the liberal education system would be more delicate and thinking about the privilege that they carry, that they would assume that other people would just be able to get themselves a dedicated workspace. I don't know. I mean, so I missed the part where they offered to come to my house and help me with my new addition. Okay. Distance learning, even this many months in, is still requiring a level of hypervigilance. It's just unrealistic to expect mothers to keep up with. We're losing it. We're losing our minds here. Okay. The other thing that I want to talk about is distractions. And right now I want to talk about specifically the way teachers are handling distractions. Now, I understand that the current mode of learning is less than ideal, but really, teachers asked for it. They did. I'm sure there were a fair number of teachers that have spoken out and that have gone to administration and really pleaded to get back in the classroom. But the bottom line is that there is no doubt anymore that the vast majority of teacher unions do not want to go back to work. And that is, unfortunately, what is leading the charge for teachers in Philadelphia that are not part of the unions to also not want to go back to work. And so that's the situation that we are in. That being said, teachers asked for this mode of learning. So I'm not feeling wholly compassionate towards the inconvenience that it causes for them. I'm just not. I mean, I guess it's a lot like a Biden supporter's not feeling bad for a Trump supporter that's bummed right now. And in 2016, I don't think Trump supporters really gave much of a hoot about what Hillary supporters were feeling. It's very similar to that. That might be a more relatable thing for people. Pardon me. Pardon. Dry mouth. Okay. So these classes have been shortened from 72 minutes to 60, and that's great, but there's still 4 of them plus homework. During this 60 minutes, I have listened to teachers in varying grade levels. And of course, this gets a little bit less time as we work with the low, what an obtuse way of saying something, huh? I noticed that the percentage of time spent on distractions during online classes is larger in the smaller grades, which is obvious, right? So we have little Johnny, turn your mic on, little Johnny, turn your mic off, little Sarah, I can't see you. Sarah, wake up, honey. Honey, wake up. Those sorts of things. You guys have to try to get a good night's sleep. And then there's always, just random comments from completely random comments from kids, the way the kids are prone to do. But when you're in an online setting and your physical presence isn't there to practice that classroom management, it gets a whole lot harder to deal with distractions. The problem is I'm finding that the teachers are now resorting to shaming, which to me suggests that they've completely flat run out of options. And that's okay. But again, you guys asked for this, so think of some options, all right? Now, when we start dealing with the especially younger grades, and I'm going to say K to 2, but you know what? Even K to 3, because I even think 8 and 9-year-olds sometimes they can be a little. Ooh. Now, my 4th grader seems to be doing okay, but I know there are kids in her class that are struggling as well, that are part of the email that the students are working on for their principal, and so. The issue that I'm going to speak about now is directly related to the younger grades and age levels. when I look up the attention span for somebody in the 7-8-year-old age range, we find that it's anywhere from, for one activity, they say that a child can spend about a half hour dedicated to like one activity that they find really interesting. So at the age of 8, she should be able to sit down. Well, she'll be 8. So at the age of almost 8, she should be able to sit down and read a really interesting book for a half hour, which she has absolutely done and continues to do, because we found this whole stack of Magic Treehouse books at the thrift store the other day. And I was so excited, including the original, the first edition. Anyway, I get a little caught up with those sorts of things. So there you go. I totally lost where I was at. So help me. Okay, so these kids are getting distracted, kind of like me. And they can spend about a half hour dedicated to one activity that they find really interesting. So I guess that's why the teachers tend to break up the classes into half-hour segments. And I get that, but the part they might have missed is where they said an activity that they find really interesting. When generously, at least 25% of the time is spent in what I'll in classroom management, mic on, mic off, you can't eat, wake up, whatever. And then so-and-so tells you about their brother's cousin pet ferret that got out or whatever. That takes some time. But when we have kids in that age range, and like, I can only give an example from my own child's classroom, and it's no way meant to like denigrate her teacher. I don't think her teacher, I don't think that her teacher is really any better or worse than most. It's just, this is a really tough learning method, like no matter what you think. A lot of times in math, she finds herself confused. I know for sure that she doesn't find herself confused because she is confused by the material. She is confused by the segmented, nonlinear way in which it is taught. I think as a result of like the Common Core method, the methodology, the way of learning, I don't think that it is helpful for her, but I also think that she has a difficult time paying attention to what the steps are supposed to be because she's distracted all the time. She's distracted by the other faces, the fidgeting, things happening around her in the house that we are currently staying. She is in that age of perfection and worry. So if she can't get a word down fast enough, or feels like it's misspelled, or that the penmanship isn't perfect, she erases it and does it again. I mean, this is when she starts getting dejected. And then the teacher calls on her and she's not ready, and the teacher kind of shames her for it. How come you're not paying attention? You have to pay attention to these steps. We have a test coming up, and it's a whole thing. And I understand the lecturer is on behalf of all the students, but they have already tuned that teacher out. Wouldn't you? I think I'm going to end it there. If you could give the video a thumbs up. I know I probably rambled on for longer than most people would be willing to listen, but I appreciate the thumbs up if you could. It does help the video get picked up by the algorithm, which is really the only way for anything to be seen anymore on YouTube. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great day. Make the best of it. Bye.